is going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Film Room, where we're getting into our All 22 live series. We're going to be jumping into some of these college prospects, giving you guys some access to the All 22 video, and also just going through some clips and seeing how myself and my guest breaks down the film and gets into some of these guys' traits. And I'm lucky enough to be joined tonight by good friend of mine, recurring guest, friend of the program. It's James Ogden from UK Ravens and Russell Street Report, as well as his own website, Red Star Baltimore, which I'm super pumped to be writing some draft profiles for this year. So, James, my guy, how's it going?
Things are good. Cole, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. And just so everybody knows, James is joining us at 11 o'clock his time over in the UK. So we are very appreciative of that, as always. Unfortunately, when I got a toddler, I always got to stress his late nights with these. But I appreciate it, man. And we have a treat tonight because we're getting into a guy that you actually turned me on to. I mean, he's a top prospect, so it's not that he was necessarily a surprise, but someone you reached out to me about, and I'm excited to jump in. But we're looking at Ikem Ekwonu. Sorry, I'm going to say that now. I'm probably going to botch that about 100 times tonight. He's a junior out of North Carolina State. Went to high school in Charlotte, North Carolina at Providence Day. He comes well decorated. He was first team All-State, CISAA, first team All-Conference on offense as a senior there. He was also, and this is something that I don't put lightly, I love looking at guys and seeing multi-sport versatility, and he was a high school wrestler, and he also ran anchor on his prep relay squad, which is just freaky. And we're going to see that on some of his backside zone plays tonight. See some of that athleticism that I think translated really well. And he's had a very good career at North Carolina State. In 2019, he was a true freshman. He started the last 7 games at left tackle. He was named to the FWAA Freshman All-American team and the PFF All-Freshman team from 2019. So he made his mark right away. In 2020, he spent time at both left guard and left tackle, something that's really important because I see him. He's going to be one of those guys where it's going to be talked about tackle, guard. They're probably going to talk about his length once he gets measured, all that fun stuff that we always go through. I see him as a very position versatile guy, and I think that's really important. And we'll probably get into that later about why I think that's specifically relevant for the Ravens. And then another thing that I wanted to highlight, he was also an all ACC academic performer in the classroom. So we always love to see stuff like that. And in 2021, he started the full season at left tackle and has landed himself as a top prospect in the draft. And like we did on the last episode with Michael Crawford on Jordan Davis, James dug into his backstory. So James, why don't you give us a little bit of his backstory?
Yeah, like MC, I like to get into the backstory of these guys, and I end up rooting for them a bit more. I actually encourage anybody who's kind of on the fence about draft prospects, or you're just looking into draft prospects, like take a while to read their backstory, and you kind of start to kind of root for the kid a little bit, and maybe look for what he can do a bit more than what he can't do. So I think with Ekwonu, what's interesting is he's from a real supportive sporting family. His dad came over from Nigeria and married his mom, and his dad was played college basketball. His mom was a high school track star. He has an older brother who is, I think, also 6'6" and was a high school wrestler. And his youngest sister is going to medical school this fall. So it's a very sort of academically gifted family, a really supportive family. And he also has a twin called OC, who is a linebacker at Notre Dame. He was a slightly higher regarded recruit than Ikem. And one of the great bits of the story I read about him was just that he saw through a lot of recruiters that came in to recruit his brother, who was the more highly regarded recruit, and pretty early got on that and committed to NC State because he knew they wanted him and not his brother. And that was in the face of other great. So he was recruited by Yale and Harvard as well. So the academic stuff has stuck all the way through from high school through into college. The thing that's most interesting about his story is that the kid is, so Dave Doran, who's the coach at NC State, describes him as a thermostat guy in that he changes the temperature of the locker room. He is a fun guy to be around. He won an award in elementary school for joy. But Dave Doran also says that he's like a guy who's completely different when he puts the helmet on. And you'll see when we get into the tape, you cannot imagine a small kid winning an award for joy in elementary school when you watch Ikem Okwnu driving guys into the ground after he's pancaked them. And that was the final sort of bit of the story I wanted to sort of bring in, which is the fact that they give out bottles of syrup at NC State for the most pancakes. And Dave Doran apparently said that they could have stocked a grocery store with the amount of syrup that they gave to Ekwonu over the years. So the kid's he's very nasty, and it's a pleasure to watch.
And it's funny you say that because I was looking through his NC State page, and I don't see – the only time I've ever seen pancakes tracked is in the NCAA video game or in Madden video games. But I'm looking through his page where it highlights his accolades. So there's a couple things that stood out. The Athletic called him the most feared lineman in the ACC. I think we're going to see why. But they tracked pancakes. So in 2020, he led the team with 50 pancake blocks and 22 knockdowns. And then – he led the team in pancake blocks in 2019 with 37. And that's 50 in like 12 games. Like we're talking not just one or two a game, it's a handful of games. So, I mean, this is a guy where he wants to put you in the ground. But I think that's so important because, and he was a captain for the Wolfpack too, which is also important because, you need a guy that can get the guys rallied up on game day and has that interpersonal skills. But then when the helmet's on, he leads with example. And I think that's a really important leadership trait. It's, you need a guy that can kind of be the guy in the locker room, rallies the guys up, but you also need someone that's going to lead by example in game. And I think that's exactly what he brings. And I think we're going to see some of that once we get into the clips here. And we're going to be going into, so this is just a context note because with Jordan Davis, with him being a defensive lineman and me having a cut up clip of two of his games, he doesn't play as many snaps as a guy like Ekwonu who's on the field for every offensive snap. So we're going to be a little bit more selective in some of the snaps we watch here tonight. We're still looking at I think 35 from this Clemson game, but it's not going to be every snap. So I just wanted to preface that. I tried to be very selective, and I use this Clemson game because he's going to show us a lot of things in this game that I really want to highlight. James has watched a few more games than I have. I've watched 3 in total, one of which was a guard game from his 2020 season where he played left guard. But I found this Clemson gave us a really good overview of his strengths and his weaknesses. So I just wanted to preface that if you guys are wondering why we're looking at less snaps or why I'm scrolling versus the Jordan Davis game. I just want to be very clear about that. We're up front here at Two Guys Watching Football. So let's get right into it because I do always want to give a little bit of insight on who the competition is. So in this Clemson game, he's going to see a ton of sophomore edge Myles Murphy. So, I mean, Myles Murphy is a pretty highly regarded prospect coming out. He's just playing a younger player, right? So it's just probably not the best true pass rusher that he played all year, but I mean, he's not a slouch either that he's going to go out there and just kind of bully around. So I just want to give a context note on that. So let's get right into the clips. We're going to start with a scroll here and start. And so here we're actually going to start with a bit of one of the things that I saw in his run game where I think I don't want to say he did it a lot because that wouldn't be accurate, but when he did have bad reps as a run blocker, I always say he gets his hands out over his skis or out over his feet, and all that means is that his upper body gets out over top of his lower body, puts him off balance, makes you prone to getting snatched by the defender. So when you're trying to give them that push and engage them with your hands, they can push down on the top of your shoulder pads, put you in your face. I know because that used to happen to me all the time when I played because I was 5'8" trying to block these guys. So he's going to be left tackle right here against Murphy. I think it's Murphy anyway. So it's right here. he just gets out. He gets too narrow of a base. He's leaning a bit on this one, and he just gets chucked. So this I really wanted to note because this is something that I saw. Not just once or twice. It happened a few times, especially during his games at guard. It's something that I think he needs to work on.
Yeah, the games at guard were specifically where this kind of came out a lot, and it was mostly the guys who were a bit more, the defensive guys who were a bit more savvy, who could bring those kind of matador like moves where they took advantage of his over aggression. You can tell he really wants to put the guy into the ground, and sometimes he wants to put the guy into the ground too hard, and he's too aggressive, and someone will use that kind of any kind of matador move and just swim him quite easily and get him overbalanced.
And this is just good run defense against zone because, these guys are trying to get to the outside. He's trying to reach the outside shoulder of, he's lined up as more of a 6 tech. He's outside of kind of the 5 gap here. But he's got to get to that outside shoulder. So there's an element of the way you ideally coach kind of a drive block is to kind of hands in tight, wide base. And that all makes sense when you coach it like that. But there's the aspect of I have to get my body to the spot before I can engage that guy. So this is just him. He's literally running to that spot. So there's going to be times where you can kind of see it right here. I wish we had the back angle on this play, but I think his base just gets too narrow, and then he's not square on his guy. He's just going to throw him forward. So stuff like that's going to happen.
And that's a feature of his game, I think, and we'll see a bit more in his pass protection as well, where he sometimes doesn't play within himself, isn't efficient. He tries to get to his spot too quickly and doesn't get there in the right way and then build his house. He's getting there he's rushing himself a little bit, and I think he's too athletic to be doing that. Really, he doesn't need to.
And so I think that's going to be a theme, and we're starting with a true pass set here, and I think I saw. It was tweeted out today by Duke Mayweather, who, there's no better cat to be looking at offensive line play than Duke Mayweather. And, he tweeted about exactly that, how he's inefficient in his pass sets. And I replied and said, the way I see it is he's oversetting because he's trying to protect against speed. And Duke actually agreed with it, which, big thumbs up to me. I'll pat myself on the back for that all day long. But I think he doesn't trust his athleticism, which is ironic because he's actually a pretty fluid mover for someone his size, and I think he does a good job in his pass sets in squaring guys up. So I'm not sure why he has that kind of mistrust with his own athleticism. I think he's plenty athletic. He's got an athletic kick step. I find he's sometimes oversetting about 1 or 2 kick steps, and so that's something that I think with this first one we can see. So he's again going to face a wider rush. And he's going to give up the inside move there. And this is going to be a theme with his pass sets because it's probably his biggest weakness. You can see it in any draft profile that's been written so far about him. It's his proneness to giving up inside counters. So you're going to see right. Go ahead, James.
No, you run the play. It'd be good to run the play. And you can see there that he's not really maintaining the half-man relationship. And this is a feature of his game, I think, where he gets what I found from watching more games, because I felt like he did sort of overset and maybe didn't trust his athleticism. But what I found was that you can see here 98 comes with the jab step to the outside. And he's I think, if I remember rightly, he set him up a couple of times. I know this is early in the game, but it's earlier in the drive. I think he set him up a couple of times. So when you get a guy who has a really effective rush plan against him and has the athleticism to threaten his edge, he's a little more wary. And so he does this where he oversets a little bit and gives up the inside move. We may not see it in this game, but he does have a power step. He has quite an effective power step. He just, in this rep, gives himself far too much to do to be able to get back and execute that power step.
And I'm going to show you exactly what James is saying when he does too much. So you can see it right. So he's going to set, and he's good right there. And then see those extra 2 steps that happen right there? Just doesn't need to do them. And so I think the reason I pay such close attention to this and the footwork piece is from watching Orlando Brown Jr. for so long, because he was a guy that was so technical with his angles and so technical with strides and his ability to square up guys on the outside. And he talked about it. You can Google trench warfare with Brandon Thorne, Orlando Brown Jr. joined him, and they talked specifically about that. And, it was something after I heard that podcast where I look for it all the time now in his game. And then I think now I just overnotice it. But it's just kind of like I said, it's that extra step that he takes here. So he's gonna set fine. It's a 45-degree angle set, and he's good right there. But he takes that extra 2 steps. And it's just, I think this is going to reoccur where just doesn't need to do it. And that's where kind of the talk of, what does it mean to be inefficient? And that's sort of what people are referring to when they say that. But here I think is one where we get some of his nastiness as a run blocker. Yeah. He's hungry, right? It's not necessarily like he's not putting anyone in the dirt here, but he's gonna bang down on. He's got a 4-eye here. Yeah, he's got a 4-eye there. He's gonna bang down on him and then go out to Murphy, and he's just carrying him here, right? And it's stuff that like that isn't a great example of what I'm trying to say, and we're gonna see more here in some later clips, but it's just the way he finishes every single rep, I think, that really stood out to me, and is something that, I want to start seeing from more of our offensive linemen. Ben Cleveland, I'm looking at you, buddy.
Well, and he's the opposite, with drive blocks and base blocks. And down blocks. He's just the opposite of, not the opposite of Ben Cleveland. We don't want to go too hard in on Ben Cleveland, but like you just see him finish. He drives his feet all of the time. It's just the finish as well for me with Ekwonu. You can see it. It's irrelevant whether it's a zone block, a space block, a gap block. It doesn't matter. He's going to finish the guy. And I think the thing for me is people sort of think finish is, driving a guy into the ground, pancaking a guy. That's not what it is. It's get your butt turned to the ball carrier and make the play functional. And he looks for the highlight block. He always looks for the highlight block, but he also makes the play functional a lot of that's very consistently across all manner of different blocks against all manner of competition as well.
And I actually think this is a very underrated point with a guy like Lamar Jackson, because Lamar gets dancing sometimes, and he may be out over, it might have been a run where he does the veer to the right side, and sometimes the left side of the line will just kind of give up as he gets down. But there's been times where Lamar's completely flipped the run. And so that's something where, again, it's it's more of one of those intangible things, but it is relevant specifically with Lamar. And I do want to just address a comment. Jordan Yates says, I heard there's some executives or teams around the league that like this kid more than Neal. I think that you're going to see, I think he's going to be regarded as kind of in the top 3 of offensive tackles. So I think you're going to see Neal, Ekwonu, and Cross as kind of the top 3 cats. And I haven't gone through the other 2 as much as I have Ekwonu, so I can't necessarily give you what I think of my top 3, but there's plenty of reasons to think that Ekwonu is going to be up there. And I want to grab this next play here because you spoke about his power step. And so first of all, this is a penalty. So this is a non-play, but he's going to kind of quick set on Murphy in this play. And he doesn't sustain the block or carry it, but I think you can kind of see that drive step that you're talking about. So see how he gets out there quick and he's square. And so this is an important one because I saw him in this game use a lot of 45-degree sets. I think given the type of violence in his hands, he can be a really good quick set player, and he can really use that to his advantage. And so when I'm talking about oversetting, this play was really reassuring because he lands this well. He's square. He's got that inside, his post leg there. His inside leg, his post leg is well set up that if he tries to counter him, he's going to be able to kind of take that post step, that 45-degree angle step back inside and have a cutoff to get his hands back in place. So again, a bit of a non-play here, but I did want to show it because we just didn't get a whole lot of opportunities in this game to see quick sets. So,
and the quick set is something you saw a lot when he was playing guard. The year previous, and what you saw was just you saw a guy get his hands on people and it was over. Like the minute he gets his hands on guys, it's done. The power in his hands is remarkable, and you see it most in his jump sets. I found that it was kind of jump set, 45 set, vertical set. He was very good in jump sets. He was good in 45 sets with some areas for improvement. And if you asked him to set vertically, he would compete, but there would be some challenges, and that's what I saw, I think, mostly.
And when you're looking at, because I think this is a really important thing in player evaluation with offensive linemen, because you want to be able to look at an offensive tackle and see some of the skill set. I say this all the time. You got to look at the skill set that's transferable to guard. And so quick sets are helpful because it shows foot quickness. I think that's something that gets a little bit of like people think I have a big unathletic tackle. Let's just move him to guard because he's not athletic enough. Well, sure, but he needs to have quick feet, maybe not as much of a long stride that, that longer speed as he's vertically setting, but he needs to have quick feet to not only meet his guy, hit his punch, but then he has to maintain that block. And you'll see quicker steps, quicker strides, shorter strides with guards and tackles. So one of the ways that I think you can do that is take some of those quick set opportunities as a tackle and see how that would look as a guard, because it's going to be, you're not always quick setting obviously as a guard, but you're going to see some of that quick footwork. So I always think that's helpful. And this was a play. The DN makes a heck of a play to stop this from being a big gain, but he's just going to pop the DN and get out on a screen. And this is my guy, Booth Jr., Andrew Booth Jr. Love him. I shouldn't say that. He's MC and Chris's guy. That I'm just going to piggyback and say he's my guy. Highly regarded. This is a first round pick corner. And I mean, I posted this clip in a group chat last night, and I was like, this is what I need a tackle to be doing to a corner. So this isn't necessarily a highlight block, but I think you can see how powerful his hands are, because Booth Jr. actually does a good job of trying to avoid him here, and he just hits him with hand. Like, look at that. He just chucks him, right? And that's what I want, right? So, I mean, again, it stood as an opportunity to see how powerful his hands are. So, heck of a play by the D end here. He just sniffs this out.
Miles Murphy's good. He's going to be good. That's MC's guy as well, actually, Miles Murphy. Yeah. Although he can't have everyone, so
yeah. You see the slot wide receiver hits a nice seal block here, and this is the left guard that's getting out there to make a play. So Ekwonu takes care of his guy. That's the DN that sniffed it out. That's your left guard going into a safety. This had some big, see that? If he hits that seal block, I mean, that could be going for 6, going for a lot more. So shout out to Murphy. We're not doing a Murphy video, but we probably could.
At some point, hopefully, we might see. So NC State's a very outside zone heavy team, and so we'll get into at some point some of the stuff with his reach and scoop blocks. There's an interesting sort of nuance to him at tackle versus him at guard, but I'll comment on that when we actually get one.
I think this is going to be a duo concept, so he's going to double with the guard and then work his. Oh no, maybe not. I have the wrong player. Oh yeah, this was. I wanted to highlight his grip strength here. So this is going to be a bit more of a true pass set. I tried to pull as many true pass sets as I can. College football, just quick passing game screens can be tough to get these guys. So, and you're going to see him just see how he's a lot more square there. He didn't overstep. You can see he's got a nice wide base. That inside leg is planted and protected, and he hits his hands. And he drops his bucket a little bit here, but that's good posture, nothing wrong there. And a lot of what James was saying on the inside, when he got his hands on a guy, this is what happened.
You look at his post leg again as well. It's just when he times himself up well, when he's patient, when he times that intersection with the rusher well, he can do this, and it's just done. It's like you said, it's that latch strength. It's just, it's over. Yeah.
And this is one where you'll watch Booth Jr. Watch Murphy. Murphy's going to try and hit him with a bit of an inside hesitation. He's trying to get him to overset, and this is where he trusts that athleticism. You can see him give a little bit of a wiggle. See right there, and he just trusts it, stays square, hands on, reps over. Easy money there. So that's something where that shows his ceiling as a pass protector. If he is able to kind of get those set points, do that consistently, he has such powerful hands, such powerful grip strength that you just can't really do much against him. And this is the duo concept. So we're going to see him. He's got the tight end on his side now. So he's going to combo, hit the double team and combo up. Not too much here because he's hitting a double team, but shows good power.
Yeah, I felt like he was pretty good on doubles. Pretty good across the sample of plays I've watched of him.
I thought he had a good ability to kind of hit a squeeze point when he was the outside man. He's and the way he comes off of them is actually pretty good too.
Yeah, his timing's good as the drive guy, isn't he?
This is going to show his ability. He just wants to hit someone on every play. So this is going to be a little bit of a slide. And so the Murphy slants in, left guard, left tackle, slide left. So he doesn't have anything to do there. He sees 47 coming on a twist because 98's the inside man. 47's coming. He said no.
He sees 47. He sees syrup in his eyes, doesn't he?
Yeah, that was a syrup moment for the guy. And I'm a Canadian, so I know all about syrup. So
we have a thing over in the UK called Pancake Day. We only eat pancakes on the Tuesday before Lent. I know it's Pancake Day every day in America, so it's kind of a bit weird, isn't it? Pancake Day every day for Ekwonu, definitely.
47, nope.
Boom.
He's going to give him another shot. That's the kind of stuff, like, it's not that it's devil's in the details with these plays, right? Like, he has that attitude where he just wants to put you into the ground. And you'll see it on a lot of these plays. Like, he just has a little bit of that nastiness where, he's giving you an extra shot. He's giving you the extracurriculars.
There's a play that our guy, Chris just joking, put in our chat where there's a penalty, one of the guys, neutral zone infraction, and Ekwonu just gives him a slap anyway.
Yeah.
It's the play's dead.
I think I actually marked this one. So I think he's on the backside of zone here. So outside zone to the right. So he's on the backside. And is this the right play? Let me make sure. Yeah, he's going to hit that cut block. And so minor detail here, but I saw this is something that I think NC State coaches their cats to do on the backside of outside zone. But it's the way he hits this. Whenever I coach my kids, like when they're like, what do I aim for on a cut block? I always say to aim for the thighs, because if you aim for the hips, you're too high. If you aim for the ankles, you're not low enough to either. Sometimes all you want from a cut block is just to get their hands down. So if you're at their ankles, sometimes they're able to sidestep you. But if they come at your thighs, it's that natural thing to get your hands down, disrupt your set. So I thought this was a really good job, just to good athleticism to get there. Takes 35 out of the play. That's exactly what you want. And sometimes on those backside blocks, like you just have to go so far to overtake that shoulder. Sometimes a cut block, just tripping a guy up is all you need. So did you notice that a lot in some of his games where he was kind of cut blocking on the backside?
Yeah, they did. They did that a lot, especially in this game. They seem to run to. I think we talked about it offline. They seem to run to the right a lot in this game. Maybe it was just to avoid Murphy,
possibly.
But it's interesting because he's an interesting guy when he's on the play side of an outside zone, because you often don't see him make the outside shoulder and reach a guy. But what you will always see him do is then just turn it into a drive and let the running back make him right. And it's just so remarkably consistent that the size of the hole he opens up, he really does drive those guys into the benches. And that's just, he's an outside zone sort of offensive tackle dream for those guys that run those really heavy outside zone schemes.
Yeah, no, I think it's something that he does really well. See in there, he's again not anything significant, but he just shows, you can see it in this angle too. He just shows a lot more patience. He lets the rusher come to him and he times the strike, and that's kind of where I wanted to show enough of these in contrast to the inside moves that he did give up, because he does do it. It's not that it's happening all the time, and he has plenty of good true pass sets.
And this is the thing, like this is the value of watching enough tape to be able to get a feel for a guy, because this is a good pass rusher. Not the best he's faced. He's a young pass rusher, but he's seen some early stuff early in the game where the guys had a good plan coming out of the gate, and he's adjusted to it. And you're now seeing a good amount of good pass sets, and it's just you've got to watch enough tape to be able to get a proper feel for the guy. And we're still in the first quarter, and he's starting to win this battle.
Yeah, absolutely. And I marked this one. I put my comment on this play was LMAO finishes into the dirt. So I'm excited to watch this one now. Not this. I think it starts at 13:30. It's right there. Irrelevant to the play, but
it's just unnecessary.
He's just mean. Buddy falls, he hits him. Screw you! I'm gonna hit you again.
When he does this, I like to remember the bit of the story I read that said he did musical theater when he was 10 or 11, and he said he had a really nice falsetto. So I like to imagine him using that falsetto as he's driving a guy into the ground.
I'd love to hear him mic'd up. I would kill to hear him mic'd up. I think we're going to see some good footwork here on a 45 set. I think that's Murphy lined up wide on him. Oh, maybe not. I think he came inside to hit a loop. They picked that up well. Good job by the left guard.
Yeah, it was the left guard. I've got a note in my notes that he processes pretty well against stunts and loops, but it's the guard. You're right, it's the guard that does a good job here, and the center.
I mean, he does his job, stays tight, picks up the guy that comes around. But I don't think he necessarily saw it coming all the way through. No. Overall, I thought his processing was pretty good, though. I didn't have a lot of negativity to say, or a lot of negative notes to say there. 15-50. I think this is one that I marked. You got to catch that, my guy. So he's going to try. He's going to. Can't tell if that's Murphy. Can't see the number. He's going to come at the inside move here, and you can kind of see already here. I think he's kind of gone a little too deep. There's that. He's now defenders crossed his head inside, so he's starting to kind of lose that leverage. But he does have his inside hand up, and that's important because that's your protection against that, right? And so he was able to hold off there and recover. So that's something super important you want to see is, not only if you are getting beat inside, nice adjustment that you want to see in the pass rush battle, things that he'll do to kind of protect against that, one of which is using that inside hand.
And he has a pretty...
Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say he has a pretty good anchor as well. You can see that quite a few times, especially when he plays guard. He uses his hands very well to drop his anchor.
And here he's going to give up a sack. So this is probably the worst one where he gave up an inside counter. Well, I guess this guy didn't. You know what I mean? He gave up a sack.
Yeah.
I don't care. That was a Raven sack. So, and it's not Murphy, I don't think. I think it's 90. I can't tell his jersey. So again, he's too far over there.
Yeah.
They're setting him up with it all night. You keep seeing them kind of use that hesitation step to get beat, and that's where he just doesn't have his. Maybe it is Murphy. Murphy 98. I think Murphy's 98.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on there from my perspective is, if he's able to use that inside hand to protect against the inside counter, but a lot of it is based in him oversetting. And that's where you'll hear people talk about the inefficiencies in his footwork and pass pro. So that's right there. He just loses. Buddy rips up under his inside hand there and makes play.
Again, it's just one or two too many steps to his set point. It's just slightly too much. And the guy, and this time, like you said before, he had his inside hand well positioned. He had it well positioned again here. It's just he's set himself just a little bit too much to do to make that power step.
And you can actually see it because you can see him sway his hips back to the right. I'll try and pause it right on the point that he does it. So he's gonna step right there, and he kind of sways his hips back to the right. So he knew, and he tries to recover. And good play. That's what you want to do against once you get that inside hand cut off. Use your hand, swipe up, knock his hand off, and then you're able to run through. He's got nothing left, right? He's just trying to hip check you out of the way. So that's probably in terms of highlight clips in this game, that was the biggest one that I noticed. And then in this next set of plays, we actually see them in the 2-minute drill to end the first half, which gives us quite a few pass sets. 24 times. See, and this is a little bit better, but he tries to set him up for that inside move again.
Yeah,
but he's a lot more square, and he's when he gets square like that, he's able to time his hand placement a lot better. Good recovery there. Good pass set. Lot better recognition of that.
Yeah, make him run the loop. He's not going to get around him.
See how he's square there? That's what you want to see. And then he comes inside, but you got him there. So if he can do that a lot more consistently, I think it's going to go a long ways for his game. I think this is another play that shows a good example of that grip strength, which again, grip strength, ability to latch on to guys is really important for that transferable guard transition he made. I mean, I think he's a tackle, but if he ends up on a team like the Ravens and they have their tackles in, then he picks up. See there, he processes it well.
Yeah, it's really quick processing that time, wasn't it? He's
and I really like this. This play excited me for a couple reasons. So did I just go for it? No, I don't think. So he processes it. So check, great play there, and then watch the bend in his hips as he's trying to. That's because he took on the defensive tackle there, right? And he just sticks his feet into the ground, and I mean it shows good ankle flexion, good flexion through the rest of his lower body. But again, another example of where he needs or where he can have some of that inside anchor as a guard.
Yeah, and it's that core strength, isn't it? Normally you'd see an offensive tackle taking a defensive tackle like that, and they'd have to sort of they'd have to jump and reset their feet to be able to drop that anchor. But he doesn't need to, like you said, that flexion in his ankles. He's managed to stalemate him.
I think they do something similar here. Again, processes it, picks it up well, but he gets a little high in his set, and so that's why he's running back right there. But then he still sticks his feet, right? So it's a good recovery, but nice process again. We saw him kind of misdiagnose a stunt earlier in the game, and now he's picked up 2 back-to-back. So he's reading that. He passes off. Here, I just think he's a little too high. He used that inside hand to pass off. I think he got too high, but good recovery. Again, sinks down through his hips, flexion through the rest of his lower body.
He really quickly got his leverage back, and that you see that with some of the best. I don't want to compare him to guys like Zach Martin, but the best offensive linemen in the NFL, their best skill is their recovery skill. Really, is their ability to get back when they're in trouble. Yeah,
and he is standing straight up there, but he look at right there, re-engages, able to plant that right foot right in. And you can see the bend right through his ankle. I think you can see it really good here, actually.
And this is the thing. Sorry, go on, Cole.
Oh, no.
I was just going to say this is the thing I think I was talking to you earlier about, which was I saw a video of Howard Mudd talking about what he looked for in offensive linemen, and he would talk about whether you were a kind of a pusher or do you have kind of explosive strength. And I think that's the thing with Ekwonu. You do see that explosive strength. You know, he's not just a mass running into people. It's that kind of thing there where he's able to use his hip explosion to just to sit back and stalemate a guy.
Absolutely.
See it better in his when he's driving people on a drive block, but
I think this is one of the ones where he got into level 2 really well.
He does locate really well at the second level, especially when he's going in a straight line. I sometimes worry a little bit about his reactive athleticism, but when he's able to get straight up on a linebacker, it's pretty difficult to get around him. It's that timing as well and that feel for when to release to the second level, which is really good there because he just didn't need to. Often you'll see guys just continue to pop that guy at the line of scrimmage, even though he didn't need it. So it was just a quick sort of chicken wing and then move straight up to the second level.
Yeah. So that's his ability to kind of turn in guys, right? So again, it's another one where I wish we would have saw more of him on the play side of zone, but I mean, this guy's lined up as a 2-tech, so he's right over the guard, and it's outside zone right, and he gets there. Like he kind of slanted into his right, so it gives him an advantage. But that's just a great ability to turn, and even as he starts to lose some of his leverage at that point, and you see this all the time, you just need to cut guys off. And so
this was the thing I saw when he was able to reach like that. He was able to do it when there was some kind of extenuating circumstances that let the defensive lineman off, like the fact that D line there sort of slanted to the right slightly. I think that's when he can make it, and he can make that work like that and get to the outside shoulder. But there were times I felt where he didn't get to the outside shoulder. But like I said, I kind of went through a bit of a journey with him where I was a bit hypercritical of that, and then realized that actually he was still finishing. I just was expecting maybe a little bit too much, but also expecting perfection when actually the kid was still opening up huge holes, huge lanes for the running back, and the running back was just making him right.
Like this recovery too. Thought at first he got his head gets a little too low, so he kind of gets his hands out over his skis on this one, but great recovery. So see right there, he's a little, he's kind of overextending, but good ability there. And that's some of the stuff I saw from him where he did recover well and he used his foot speed. And that's where I kind of had some of those questions about, like, why is he so worried about oversetting? Because that's what it looked like to me. Like, I mean, I don't know how he's coached. But when I see someone kind of oversetting like that, especially with a bigger dude, usually it's symptomatic of I'm trying to prevent myself from getting my edge bent. But, this is something technique-wise right there. You just don't want him to bend forward too much because that's where you'll get some of the, the Matador stuff.
It's just that patience, isn't it? It's the patience to know when to intersect the rusher, and he's just getting in a little too early at times. And that's a good example of it there. It's just, I think it's kind of, I think it's, that is what you're seeing from him. He is on occasion overbalancing. And like I said, I thought it was when it was guys with good plans, basically guys who had good plans, able to execute it, and who were threatening enough to him athletically that he was a little bit worried. But he's gonna. Maybe there'll be an adjustment period in the NFL when he comes in and he sees guys like that every week, and he'll start to adjust to it and get better. I do kind of believe in his ability to improve as well. Having watched games across a couple of years, I do think I've seen him get better. I've seen him get more patient and understand when to intersect the rusher. And when you can see that growth on tape, you're kind of encouraged that growth could continue when he gets in the league.
Absolutely. I think we're going to see a nice, lead block here from He ends up on the ground at the end. But this is one of the there just wasn't a lot of opportunities because they, like I said, they ran to the right a lot in this game. But you're going to kind of see his ability as a run blocker here.
It's that first club. It's like, get out of here. There's so much power in his hands.
And I mean, pretty athletic block here, like right off his scoop step. I mean, he's taking Murphy wherever he wants to take Murphy.
Yeah.
Which is really important.
Yeah. Look at that. It's just like, get out.
One more time. See what happens. Do we get a good? He's gonna get him on the ground there. It's probably sick.
Is he pulling down by his face mask a little bit?
You got. If you're gonna give it, you got to be ready to take it.
Yeah.
I think he hits a cutoff block here. I was trying to use these. The reason I was trying to use some of these backside cutoff blocks is, you can obviously see it on the front side too, but you really see his athletic ability as a run blocker on some of these cutoff blocks. And so, same idea there. Yeah. He actually made it more functional in terms of he turned his body, used his hands versus just kind of cutting him off with his back. But it's exactly what you want on the backside here. Get there, get through, set through, use your hands. The important thing there is getting under the pad. So ideally, you want to be getting under the pads with your hands. But you at this point, whatever works, whatever makes the block. And so in that case, it was using his pads, turning into them, and then finishing the block that way. So, but he's lined up in the 3 here. So not anything like reaching a 2 like we saw before, but still exactly what you want from him. And then I think we actually have just one more play that I marked from this Clemson game. Yeah, same idea as before. He's better set point, more patient with his hands. As he once again, they're trying to set up that inside move here. So he's more square. Yeah. Once he sees it, locates it, and he just uses his hands in that instead of his feet. And as long as you have that set points, there in the right amount of depth. Good. We got a question here from Mike, long-time listener, first-time commenter. What do you guys think about his stance? How functional do you think it is? The way he carries his hands pre-snap is pretty unique. Let's go back to this one. We can see his hands. I haven't really looked a lot at his stance, actually. You thinking his hands are too low, Mike? Perhaps. Spencer said that too. I wonder if he keeps his hands low. Yeah, I think that makes sense because that was the first thing that was something I just didn't look at.
It's interesting because that's a thing. Part of the thing we talked about is his patience and his timing, and perhaps that's keeping it too low is not the way to go for him. Yeah,
the lower your hands are, the more you're kind of giving away when that punch is coming a little bit. Yeah. When they're up here at kind of the tip level, it's just lower. But when they're coming down here, you can kind of not only see them coming a little bit more, but you're going to get more room to navigate it. I think that's definitely something you could see an adjustment with. And we've heard about that a few times from, guys like Spencer in the chat that is able to get at camp. You'll hear about the Ravens working on guys' stance. He says, yeah, I don't think anything is wrong with it. Just interested in your opinion. Other tackle doing it too. Yeah, that could just be something and that's why I'm mentioning that. Like different teams will coach just a different way of doing it. Something I think it's a good point, Mike, because I think you can see that is definitely low, and you can even see it there. Like he's coming all the way up from his hips up to the up to the DN shoulder pads. But great question. We'll just watch this one more time. And then you guys that are watching live, feel free to put, we're going to have a little bit of a discussion to end this one here. So if you guys have any questions about Ekwonu specifically, feel free to put them down in the chat. But that's the end of the film clips that I pulled from this game. I think there'll be an opportunity later, especially if he ends up drafted by the Ravens, where we could go back and look at one of those guard games. I was more worried about time, just because I appreciate you guys joining us. I never know how long to make these videos. So James, just as an overview, let's start with his run blocking abilities, and we'll kind of look at his run blocking, his pass blocking, and then some of the intangibles. So as a run blocker, what's kind of your takeaway on his game?
Well, I think as a run blocker, it's like I said before, it's the way he is able to fit and finish with pretty much every single block. I do worry, like I said, a little bit about his about his reactive athleticism in space, but I think that's minimal. You can see that he is hitting guys in space and seriously putting them under duress. I think for me is the thing for me. I was interested, I think, in his projection to guard as a run blocker, because I do think some of the things I saw from him with reach blocking could perhaps sort of keep you away from him as a potential guard in an outside zone scheme. I think he fits better, actually, happily for the Ravens. I think he fits better in a gap power scheme as a guard. I think he's pretty scheme diverse as a tackle, but I think as a guard, I can see him a better fit in a gap power scheme. And when you get him in at a guard, you're able to get him to jump set. He's going to be able to jump set a lot more than he does out wide at tackle. But the kid for me has the athleticism to be able to play at tackle. So I don't see any reason to start him inside at guard. I think you play him out at tackle. Sorry, your question was about run blocking. I turned it into a guard versus tackle.
No, it's great, because it actually brings up something I want to talk about, because I think when I'm looking at, the Ravens' first round pick, and, I'm always going to be best player available till the day I die. It's just something I believe in. I don't believe in strapping yourself to a position, or I need to go draft this position, at this pick. So the Ravens, generally speaking, think that way. So, but I think a guy like Ekwonu actually fits them really well in that regard, because the strategy at tackle this year needs to be, they have kind of a best case scenario where Stanley's ready week 1 and ready to roll, and they don't need a left tackle, and he's healthy and he's going to give you 17 games. That's great. That's the best case scenario. I think the Ravens need to be better prepared for the worst case scenario. So let's just hypothetical say Juwan James comes into camp, looks great. He's going to be your right tackle. Cool. Stanley comes in, he's healthy. He's your left tackle. It's like, okay, well, we spent a first-round draft pick, 14th overall, on Ikem Iguano. What am I doing here? Well, not all tackles, and this is very important because some people do just say this sometimes, oh, just kick him into guard, he's fine. Ekwonu is going to give you that ability to, day one, he's your left guard, set it, forget it. And he's going to give you very high-level play there. So, then people are going to talk about, the positional value of drafting a guard at 14 or whatever. It's all about getting better players on this offensive line. So I think Ekwonu gives you that kind of upside where I see him fitting 4 different spots on the Ravens O-line. So he's kind of one of those best case scenario picks where, he may not come in and be your day 1 left tackle because Stanley's back, but he's going to be one of your best 5, and he's going to give you high-level play. So just not all of these tackles are going to give you that inside-outside ability. So I think that's something that really boosts his value. And I do want to reiterate, yes, please, guys, go click like right now if you're watching this on YouTube, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more. And then as a pass blocker, some of my thoughts were, I think I made it really, really clear what kind of my concern was. I saw this across games. The beauty of what I think his biggest downfall as a pass blocker is very coachable. It's not an issue where it was funny. Mike and I in one of our group chats today were talking about Tyree Phillips and rethinking kind of his player evaluation. And one of the things when I thought back, read through my notes on Phillips, because I did have the opinion at the time that I thought he could play tackle, and I think one of the things that I missed or didn't give it enough credit to, and I said this to Mike earlier, is he didn't have a lot of fluidity in his hips, and I think he didn't have that ability to square guys up on the outside. And that's something I do see from Ekwonu, who, he's not the most athletic guy, but he's plenty athletic. But it's not only that, it's not just being athletic, having a fast quick step, it's having that hip fluidity to kind of square guys up on the outside. And that's something I see from him that I really like in his game. I think the set points and all of that, I think that's completely coachable. It doesn't give me a whole lot of concern.
No, and I think one of the things that I wanted to just quickly touch on was to kind of, I think with Ekwonu, one of the things you have to be careful of is the nasty, and I think his mean streak, the nastiness, the finish that he has, can sometimes be a bit of a moth to a flame to evaluators. You have to know your own biases, I think, as an evaluator. And I went on a little bit of a journey with Ekwonu, because I've been on a little bit of a journey with nasty finishes over the years. I think it was Danny Watkins in 2011 who I thought was great, and I think I got blinded a little bit by the fact that he finished guys so much, and I wasn't the evaluator I am now back then, but I missed on him because of how much I enjoyed watching his tape. And we'll love seeing offensive line play like that. So, and then I kind of overcorrect. Well, I didn't overcorrect. I think Greg Robinson was the next guy I remember who I thought, Greg Robinson was the next guy who was kind of good. There were a lot of people thinking he was kind of a top 10, top 20 pick, because he was driving guys into the ground. And I think I saw through that, and I saw his limitations. And I've kind of come full circle. I overcorrected a bit on Mekhi Becton and sort of missed on him a little bit. And so Ekwonu's kind of been an interesting evaluation for me. I think I sort of tried to continue that overcorrection, and then have come back and realized that, let's give him some credit for that finish and try and make sure we accurately see him. And I think we're getting to that point now where we do kind of accurately see him.
Yeah, and I think with that's something. I've made it no secret, it's been my biggest criticism of Ben Cleveland, and it's just, you can't really. I mean, you can in certain ways, but sometimes it's really tough to teach a guy to just be a mean son of a bitch. Like, it's just kind of the reality of playing football. Some guys kind of come in and it's a mindset, right? And so it's like, how do you coach a mindset? Yes, you could unlock things, do things as a coach. That's all great, but tough thing to bring out of guys. So it is always good to see. But I think what I liked with him in terms of the nastiness is I found it pretty controlled. There's nothing where I'm like, well, that was great that you finished the block and all, but you kind of completely took yourself out of the play. So, for example, if he's banging on a double team and he's so intent on finishing that guy that he doesn't come off on his combo, and it's a negative outcome on a run play, that could be you can see that sometimes where you're just trying way too hard to put the guy in front of you that you don't do your job. So I wouldn't say that is. Yeah, see, good point, Spencer. I'll give credit to that for sure. That's culture, right? That's team culture. If you got guys coming into practice every day looking to bang, I mean, you gotta kind of. It's just the culture it breeds around you. It brings personality to the team. It's something. I think it's part of the reason. I've talked about it a little bit with the defense this year. Sometimes when you're seeing missed tackles and that sort of thing, you're just not holding guys accountable. And there's a reason we didn't see a whole lot of missed tackles in the days of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed. And it's just that swagger they bring, and it rubs off on guys, and it gets guys holding themselves to a higher accountability level. So, before we wrap up here, do you have any final words you want to get? Is there anything that we didn't get to that you want to say about Ekwonu?
I think the only thing for me is I think he's just going to be a guy who, I know this is kind of an illusion because it's the media, but I think he's going to be a guy who rises through the process. He's as they get him in meeting rooms and realize how smart he is and realize how much of a great character he is. And as their coaches start to see what this kid could be, I feel like he's going to be someone who moves up boards. And I think the thing is as well, someone mentioned Evan Neal or the other sort of offensive tackles earlier in the video. And I think Evan Neal is a very different offensive tackle. I've just finalized my report on him today, and I think he's efficient. He's got efficient feet, and that's a real compliment from me. He's a pass protector that never really looks in trouble, but he's more of a pusher in the Howard Mudd mold. The things that Howard Mudd said, he's more of a pusher really than an explosive guy in the run game. So you're getting somebody slightly different. So it's kind of, what do you want? What kind of offensive tackle flavor do you want? But I think I'm not sure I think the main thing is I'm not sure he's going to be there for the Ravens at 14. I think he's going to go in the top 10.
Yeah, I think that's pretty bang on. And Spencer and I actually talked about that. And is this a guy that you trade up for? And do you want to spend that type of draft capital when you have so many positions you're looking to fill? And I think they want to retool some of their depth pieces. So, it is going to be tough. But, if a couple of quarterbacks somehow get up there, if teams prefer Cross and Neal, you never know, right? But it's still 14's a ways to get down the board for a guy of this caliber. So, it is a guy that I think if he hits that 10, 11 spot, if you look at the Eagles last year, they traded up with the Cowboys to grab Devontae Smith, had to throw in a late third to do it. I think it was pick 86, if I have it correct in my head, but that was only to jump up 2 spots. So it's expensive. You might be looking at giving up either your late third or your early third and getting back a 5th or a 6th or something. So, it would be expensive. So, I want to be prepared because you turned me on to this guy's film and I love the way he plays the game. He brings that swagger that I think, and I mean, the other thing is there's some guys in this class that have it too. I posted about him today. Spencer actually is the one that put me onto him. That center out of Brock Hoffman out of Virginia Tech, where I'm going to be doing a film room on him soon because that guy's got the nasty in him. But, that's all we have for you guys today, James. Thanks so much for joining us from across the pond in the late night of your time. We appreciate it. We always love having you on. And that's all I have for you guys. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other.